What is going on, everyone? So in this video, we're gonna take a look at 8x10 film holders. Now, this is something that some of you guys have sent me some questions about as far as what are the differences between the different brands that are out there. So I figured I would create this video for those of you that are interested in shooting view cameras and sort of talk about my thoughts on the various film holders I've used and the experience I've had using those film holders out in the field. So when I first started shooting 8x10, it was back in 2009. And I bought some film holders that were on the used market from Fidelity Elite. And I had probably at some point 6 or 7 of these film holders. And the nice thing is that they're fairly lightweight. They're the second lightest of the film holders I use, but ultimately I've retired almost all of them in time because I've had some issues with them. Let's talk about the good part of them first. The dark slides are very easy to insert. They're very easily coated here. A white side and then a black side. There's some dots here so you can feel in a changing bag as far as which side is facing outward. Very easy to load the film into these. Easy to insert the dark slides, which is nice. But the issues I've had with them is they have a kind of a polished surface somewhere in there that reflects light in kind of a weird way. So if you're taking a horizontal photo, each side right here and right here, you're gonna have some light reflect off the film holder and onto the film surface, and you're gonna have kind of a bright lip right here and right here. It's something that can be fixed in Photoshop, but it's really annoying. And I guess you could probably go in there and kind of dull that surface a little bit, but I've never really gotten around to that. Also, I have had a few of these guys leak light over time, and I think it might be partially because the ones I initially bought were used. I've since retired some of those ones that had light leaks. But I did buy some of these new when they were available new. But now I've kind of relegated all of my Fidelity Elite holders to shooting black and white because it's something I'm still kind of practicing with and working with. And I'd feel bad tossing these film holders, but in reality, I don't really trust them quite as much as some of the other ones that I use. And I have probably 3 or 4 of the Fidelity Elite holders left in my lineup, but most of them are going to be used for black and white these days. What I've replaced them with are these ones from Toyo. So these ones are still currently in production. They're not cheap, but you can buy them new. They're a little less than $200 new, but these things are built really, really well. They're really, really solid. I have not had any issues with any internal reflections in them, which is really, really nice. So if you take a picture where there's a lot of open sky, that's where I've noticed it the most. You get this like little bright area on either side. These ones will not do that, which is really, really nice. They're built really well, but also they're a little bit on the heavy side. And also it's a little bit hard when these things are brand new to remove and to insert the dark slides. It gets easier as you use them a bit more, but there's definitely a little bit of a break-in process. When I load film into these, they're pretty easy to load film. In both this and the Fidelity Elite, the way that I load film into them is that in my changing tent, I have the film holder positioned just like this, where the end right here is facing away from me. I do not pull the entire dark slide. I open it up just a little bit, just like that. Just enough where I can open this door right here. And then when I'm in the film changing tent, I load the film in this way. So I can feel where these little ridges are right here. And it makes it really, really easy to keep the film nice and squared up. So these ones are pretty easy to load. If we look at the way the dark slides are designed, one side is gonna be black. The other side is going to have a silver color right here, and they put these little sort of little dots in there so you can feel in the dark room or in the changing bag which side of the film holder or which side of the dark slide is facing outward, because you might be a situation where you're loading film into it or you're unloading film. You want to keep track of which sheet you're pulling out of there. So right out of the gate, right from the factory, it's really easy to tell which side of the dark slide is which, very similar to the Fidelity Elites. I have a ton of these right now in my lineup. I have probably maybe 8 or so of the Toyo film holders. I've been very, very happy with them. The weakness is that they are kind of heavy. And so when going on backpacking trips, I wanted to get something a bit lighter weight so that I can carry either more film holders with me or just reduce my overall weight for the whole setup. And so for that, I bought 4 of these film holders here from Chamonix. So these are certainly going to be the most beautiful of the bunch, really, really well made. So they're made of wood, really nice finish to it, super, super smooth. These are going to be lighter than either of the 2 previous ones. They have a carbon fiber dark slide, which is really interesting. The tolerances are very slim on these film holders, which means it can be a little bit difficult at times to insert the dark slides. But they have a really nice, really high quality feel to them. One thing though is that straight from the factory when you buy them, there's kind of a label right here, which I didn't find to be very useful, so I peel that off and I put my own label here. I always label my film holders on each side, but also I will put what film is in there. And so I kind of dedicate the film holders to certain film stocks. So this is one for Velvia 50. And I say that this is film holder number 2, so wood holder number 2, side A, and then side B to kind of keep track of that. Another area where these could be a little bit better is the dark slides here. So it's a solid chunk of carbon fiber, which is kind of cool. But straight from the factory, there's not a good way of differentiating between the 2 different sides of the dark slide. So I put this white label right here. This is what they look like when they come straight from the factory. One side will say Chamonix, the other side does not say Chamonix, but it's not something that you can feel in the dark when you're trying to load film, or if you're in a dark room or trying to, figure out which side has the shot piece of film, which side doesn't. So by putting the label on here, you can visually see the white there, which is really nice. That way I can see that, for me at least, I use white to indicate that this side would have unexposed film, versus this side would have exposed film or no film. Either way, white means that you can use it, black means you're not going to want to use that side. So I had to put these labels on there so I can feel that, and also so I can see that. So I wish that there was some way that they, straight from the factory, they had a better way of distinguishing between the 2 different sides there. The other thing too on these is these are kind of a pain to load film into because I have to load it differently. Maybe if I was used to loading film in these, it would be just normal to me and all the other ones would seem really different. But instead of loading film like this, where I have it facing away from me in the light changing tent, I open this up and I load film in right here. For whatever reason, I can't do that on these film holders. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something about me not being able to get film squared up properly and underneath the ellipse right here where you're supposed to load it. The only way for me to load film is to have this sideways in the changing tent, which in the scheme of things is nicer because that's the orientation of the changing tent, but it's also harder to feel, to get it squared up here. So it took me more attempts to try to load these. I'm much, much faster loading the Fidelity Elite or the Toyo holders. Since I use these for the first time on my spring backpacking trip, I didn't have a good chance to test them out before going in the field, so I just had my fingers crossed that they were light tight and everything was good, and everything was just fine. That being said, I did throw a jacket over my camera when I was loading the film holders just because I hadn't built up that sense of trust yet. But I really love these film holders. These are the ones I'll probably pull out just if I'm going to be shooting basically an area where I have to hike that camera in a really, really long way, so I'm trying to save all the weight possible. But they're really fun to handle, really beautiful film holders. So that's kind of the breakdown of everything. The Fidelity Elites are the ones that I've mostly retired. I've had a few issues with these, the bright edges, as well as some potential light leaks. But they're lightweight, so that's nice. The Toyo's are built like a tank. Dark slides are a little stiff at first, but it kind of breaks in. I've had no issues with the light leaks. They're just a little bit on the heavy side. And that is why I have the Chamonix holders, which are much lighter, a little bit more difficult to load, and you have to do a little DIY stuff in order to better sort of keep things labeled up on that end there. But that being said, they all kind of have their own unique advantages and disadvantages, and you're going to want to make sure that you put the film holders in some sort of case to keep them really protected. Because even though the Chamonix holders are going to be a bit more fragile just because of the thinness of the wood compared to what plastic can do, none of these film holders, whether it's the Toyo's, the Chamonix, the Fidelity, I mean, none of them should be in any way abused. So you'll want to keep them all very well protected. And for doing that, I do have the cases from Stone Photo Gear that I use. The Chamonix will come with a nice case as well, which is really lightweight. But I like the Stone ones because I can color code them, so I keep track of which film is in which. But I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you around next time.